going to start with what I think was the game of the day, the result of the day. My one kind of positive coming out of this week was I called the Miami Dolphins win off the back of seeing the state of the Bills secondary and the number of injuries they had. And they did it, but it wasn't this offensive masterpiece, Mike McDaniels absolutely turning on and then putting up 35, 40 points. They did it by shutting down Josh Allen time and time again. Simon Clancy, that had to be an absolute spirit-boosting performance.
It was. I mean, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was quite an... I thought it was complimentary of the Bills because essentially what they did was just try and keep that speed off the field. You know, in that heat, they didn't want their defense running around. I mean, the Ravens ran 6,500 yards last week trying to cover the Dolphins, which has been the most in the NFL in like 10 years. And why would the Bills, with a slightly depleted secondary, why would they want to do that? So I think I heard earlier on that Josh Allen's 73 dropbacks were the most in NFL history since records have started. Dolphins only played 39 offensive plays, which was the lowest in the NFL since 2018. Ironically, with the Dolphins again back in week 3 of 2018. But so yeah, it was great to do it. Yes, there were injuries. There were injuries on both sides. I thought it's been astonishing watching Bills fans complaining about the heat, that the game should be moved, that it was too hot. It's like, I'm sorry, does it not snow in Buffalo in like from November through till January? In what world are we living in, lads? In what world?
The number of Bills fans who descended on South Beach all through Friday, Saturday, Sunday for that exact reason. I mean, if you're a Bills fan, you're hoping that game's happening in December because it's a chance to get out of the minus 20 degrees that it can get to in Buffalo on game day.
It was party time in Fort Lauderdale on Friday and Saturday, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's too hot and everything. I mean, I saw some people tweeting they were going to complain to the government. It's like,
Is this the thing that finally gets Americans believing in climate change?
Well,
is this the moment that the whole thing turns? Because Buffalo's Bills fans, it was a bit warm.
Last time I checked, it was hot for both teams. So, I mean, you know, and lads, you had the ball for 40 minutes. If you can only score 19 points or 17 points yourselves, you know, that's on you, not on not anybody else. But no, it was a big win. I think McDaniel has been very cautious in saying it was a statement win. It's just that there's very much a one game at a time mentality, which I think is really interesting. I thought the offense was incredibly efficient for those 39 plays. Tua played really well, made critical throws when he needed to. The offensive line protected really well, but the defense was the real, and I've worried about the ability to get home with 4, and I thought they did a really good job. The front 4. Secondary was outstanding. Xavier Howard was brilliant playing on a dodgy groin. Javon Holland had probably his best game as a pro, which is high praise indeed, with 1.5 sacks, 10 tackles. He could have had an interception at the end. He had like 3 or 4 pass breakups. He was absolutely everywhere. The sack fumble. So yeah, I thought just defensively, Josh Boyer just called a fantastic game. But also, you just want to praise Josh Allen. I mean, what an absolute mutant he is. I was listening to people this morning saying Allen was terrible and he choked and he could only. I mean, come on, people just not understanding fundamental football in terms of scheme and how you move a ball up and down the field in terms of the Bills were never really behind the chains, and when they were, he converted. Like there was a 2nd and 26, and we've got a WhatsApp group, and I put in the WhatsApp group, it's 2nd and 26 Buffalo, but this mutant's going to convert. And they did. That's just what he does. His ability to extend the plays, his toughness. Even on the final play of the game, Melvin Ingram, who's, no shrinking violet in terms of his size, 265 pounds, is draped all over Allen. He still manages to escape. Then he escapes Jalen Phillips. He's got Emmanuel Ogbah hanging off his back, and he still hits Isaiah McKenzie. And it's, only the fault of McKenzie for not getting out of bounds. They don't have either a Hail Mary or a long field goal attempt. So I thought Allen was phenomenal to watch. He's just such an incredible player. And but it was a really good game. And the Dolphins came out on top. I don't believe that the Dolphins are fundamentally a better football team than the Buffalo Bills. I think if they line up tomorrow on a neutral field with everybody healthy, I think the Bills would probably win. But I think the Dolphins made a statement. The top of the AFC East, and it's a short week this week against Cincinnati, and you worry about the defense going up against having played 90 plays, going to Cincinnati on a short week. But then after that, there's a run of sort of 6-7 games where you play the Texans, the Bears, the Jets, the Steelers, and you just think this team could even if they lose to the Bengals on Thursday night, they could be 8-9-1 by the time that they get to the difficult portion of the back end of the schedule. Their final 6 weeks it's a bit hairy, but there's they play Detroit. There's some winnable games there.
What did you two make of the controversy of Tua going down? and getting back up, stumbling, moving about. It looks bad, but the excuses afterwards are a bit suspect, aren't they?
What I think is that what concerns me is that when he hits the floor, the first thing he does is he touches his head. Okay, if he hurt his back, you'd be like that, right? Then he gets up, and the first thing he does is like when a dog gets up from a sleep and it goes and shakes his head. Tua like shakes his head as if he's like shaking off the cobwebs. Then he starts to walk forwards and stumbles and nearly falls over, and then he's held up by players, and then he goes off. The thing that concerns me most, apart from all that, is that, we've all been in press boxes. When somebody gets injured and you're sat in the press box, there's an announcement that says, Will Gavin, neck injury, questionable to return. And so you get all the beat reporters, all the beat writers tweet that out at the same time because they've heard it all over the loudspeaker. So all the Dolphins beat reporters tweeted at the same time, Tua Tagovailoa, questionable to return, head injury. Why was it announced that he had a head injury? Because that information comes from the trainers. The trainers feed that to the press office. The press office then feed that through into the Canoi system. And then the Dolphins then tweeted that out as well. Tua, questionable to return, head injury. I don't understand why there's any confusion on that. He either hurt his neck or he hurt his head. He hurt both, but that's fine. But don't say he had a head injury as the main reason why he wasn't. I don't know. I just think in a game where we're being incredibly careful about what people do when they hit their heads or there's head-on collisions, those sorts of things. But according to Joe Rose of the Dolphins, he was literally in the tunnel before the end of the half, was throwing the ball about, warming his arm up before the half had even finished, whilst Teddy Bridgewater was still taking snaps. So, the independent neurological advisor clearly cleared him and he was ready to go. But it didn't. I just thought it looked ugly.
It is worth mentioning that the NFL has, there's my cat, that the NFL has more the best protocols in the world for dealing with this, has independent neurological experts in the stadium. They have to go through so many, and look, you could get really kind of skeptical about it and talk about how the league have done that because it's about protecting their own back and saving themselves from lawsuits and everything else. But it doesn't matter. It is as safe as it can possibly be. It did look suspect and it did look like a bad decision. But if they've gone through every protocol, if they've jumped through every hoop, if they've done everything they need to do to get through it, the process will continue to be reviewed and looked at, and they are mounting an investigation into it to make sure that every box was ticked. But you kind of can't argue against it if they've done everything right. It's not like the team have made the active decision to send in a guy they know is hurt because he gives them a better chance of winning necessarily. They have to have still cleared all of those other hurdles first. I will say something, and we don't know he's focused on this game for a while, but I just on the Josh Allen performance, and the defense were excellent. Emmanuel Ogbah, 7 QB pressures, Melvin Ingram, 5 with 2 sacks. I thought he was, looking back to his Chargers best this weekend. And there were miscues on the Buffalo side of things. Gabe Davis could have caught that ball, could have probably held on to it, could have been a touchdown. Josh Allen did throw for 400 yards. The offense generated nearly 500 yards, 31 first downs, but for only 19 points. And I do think that Josh Allen is an unbelievable football player who should make this team relevant for the next 15 years. But he has become a little bit Teflon because of how good he was last season. And people do forget he threw the 3rd most interceptions last season. And on the final drive, not the final near scoring drive, not when they then got the ball back again at the end, he threw 3 what should have been interceptions. Miami should have picked the ball off 3 times and they were dropped. So I'm not saying he was bad. Some people have overreacted, but I'm just saying he's still a human being. Under pressure, he can still make mistakes. And I'm saying that more than anything to say that people who want to send the Bills to the Super Bowl off the first 2 weeks of this season, just remember what a really good defense can do to a really good quarterback.
Yeah. I worry about Buffalo's lack of a run game, I have to say.
Real problem this weekend.
That to me is a massive issue. And that then leads to Josh having to play sort of hero ball. Do you know what I mean? And I think if they'd had more balanced running attack, I think that would have been, that would have been significantly, it would have just been a significantly better option for that team.